Hi, I'm Lauren Hines with Craft Some Joy, and welcome back for another episode of Scrapbooking Basics. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I'd like to share a few tips and tricks about using embellishments. Embellishments can add so many wonderful components to our scrapbooking layouts, but as you can see, they can also be kind of overwhelming. So learning a little bit about embellishments and learning the types of embellishments and the attributes of embellishments can start to help you make sense for how to use all these different components on your scrapbook pages. So to get started, you may want to go to my website at craftsomejoy.com and go ahead and print out this free download I have for you, which is called Tips for Embellishments. Now, I also have some other downloads for my Scrapbooking Basics series, but this episode, I am giving you a free download. So go ahead and grab that download, and we're going to go through that on this episode of Scrapbooking Basics. So the first thing that I want to kind of share is what are the different types of embellishments. I pulled in front of me some of my favorites, and I also gave you a list of 10 kind of most popular types of embellishments. So let's go through them one by one. And you can see that I have a few different collections here in front of me. And many of these are from Creative Memories, which is my favorite brand to work with. So to start, what I'd like to share is one of the embellishment packs from the new Sparks of Magic collection. And I'm going to share some other embellishments from different collections just to kind of demonstrate the different types of embellishments. So the first one that I have on my list is printed graphic die cut. So what does that mean? Well, really, all that means are that there are different types of kind of pre-cut embellishments that we can use to work with on our scrapbook pages. Now, what's really wonderful is that the designers that have created this collection for us have already kind of coordinated different styles and designs and clusters for these embellishments for us just to work with. So that first category for the type of embellishment is the printed graphic die cut. So this is what I'm talking about. Different icons and graphics that are printed and already cut for us. Now, the second type of embellishment is something that you might find in a pack such as this with different types of embellishments. And this is from the You Got This collection. And you can see, again, we've got all those printed die cut graphic elements in this collection as well. But we also have this wonderful enamel sheet, and these I love. I really enjoy using all these enamel dots and shapes and icons also in my layering and embellishment clusters. So this is another type of embellishment, these fun little enamel bits. Okay, so third type, well, we've got one of those in the Sparks of Magic collection, and that is a sheet of gemstones. And these are really fun, not only for scrapbooking, but I also enjoy using these on cards. And kind of scrapbooking and card making tend to go hand in hand, don't they? So whenever I see some of these larger gems, I also think, ooh, those would be really fun to put on cards as well. Okay, another type of embellishment we have is word art. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we just came out with a wonderful new collection of laser cut words, and this is called Must Have Laser Titles version 3, and version 1 and version 2 are also still available. And if you are interested in how I have my titles stored, I have a video that shares how I have created a title binder for all of my different title words. And you can find that video linked here. So getting back to laser cut titles, these are some of my favorite embellishments because kind of the font choice and the fun has already been decided for me. And all I have to do is use this fun word art with some of these embellishments, and I already have a really neat embellishment cluster starting to happen. So those kinds of laser words are just a really fun type of embellishment to use. Now, in addition to printed word art, you will not only see laser titles, but you will also see titles in some of the embellishment packs like these that say friends and family. And sometimes they even have a really neat kind of epoxy finish on them. So Creative Memories just really kicks it up a notch with their embellishments, and it gives kind of a texture and feel to their words. So I love it. Here's another one that says, "Go for it." Okay, so all kinds of fun types of embellishments. Now, of course, another very simple type of embellishment would be a punched shape. And so you can see I have a few samples here of a punched camera. This was from one of the Creative Memories punches, and a double star punch. And here is the 5-leaf punch shape that I have punched out. And anybody who's been watching my channel for a while knows how much I love my punches. So these are always a good thing to keep in mind when you're creating embellishment clusters for your page. So punches are another fun one. Now, there are also die cut shapes. And what I mean by die cut shapes is actually the metal dies that you can purchase that you run through a die cutting machine and that give you a word. So in addition to the already pre-cut laser titles that Creative Memories offers us, I also like a little stash of my own words and sentiments that I can pull on if I need a certain word or set of words for my embellishment. So you can see just a couple samples here of those dies, different die sets that I like to have on hand. Now, kind of along with a die cut word, you can also kick it up yet another notch by going to our electronic cutters. And that's what I did for this title that says Sun, Sand, and Sea. Is I actually created this and cut this with my Cricut. And that also, many of you know how much fun electronic cutters can be and how versatile they can be because you can cut any size, any color, paper. You can use printed paper or cardstock or whatever you need. You can create it with an electronic cutter. So not only can you do titles, but you can do different shapes and embellishments with those electronic cutters too. So that's really kind of the endless opportunities when you bring in an electronic cutter into the embellishment world. Now, of course, one of my favorite embellishments has just got to be stickers. Stickers not only are one of my favorites, but they are also just so easy to use. And again, Creative Memories really does a beautiful job giving us lots of choices for stickers. You can see this one says Believe, and I actually put foam squares on the back so that I could create dimension, and I'll be talking about that in just a minute. But we usually have a full sheet of different word art with different words on it. We have a sheet of icons with wonderful different shapes and icons that we can use in our clusters, as well as a sheet of border strips. So the two that I really use kind of for embellishing purposes are the words and the icon stickers. And you can see I've already really gotten into my Sparks of Magic stickers. Okay, this one also you can see is from the You Got This collection. Again, some wonderful word art and again, some icons to use in your embellishment clusters. along with all of your die cuts and enamel flair. Now, the last embellishment that I have on my list is washi tape, and washi tape, as you know, can also be a really fun component to add in the mix of all these different embellishments. And in addition to all these fun things, let's also not forget the value of having a good pen. I love the dot tip pens from Creative Memories because they can also just give you a little additional textural element with color. And I'm going to get into that in just a minute. Okay, so we've gone through all these 10 different types of embellishments, and I'm sure you probably have some that you can add to this list as well. When you are looking at the types of embellishments, I also want you to start thinking about the attribute of the embellishment. So one thing that I've learned when I am working on my pages and deciding what to group together, there are really 5 different things that I try to pay attention to when I'm grouping these embellishments. And the first one is size and scale. And of course, each of these attributes applies to each of the different types of embellishments. Okay, so the first one I like to look at is size and scale. And what do I mean by size and scale? Well, just looking here, even at a sticker sheet, you can start to see that some things are bigger and some things are smaller. And one of the things I like to take a look at are what I like to call sprinkle stickers. They're those little tiny stickers that are so fun to add in your embellishment clusters that give just a little pop of color or a little more dimension to how you group things together. And so that is on the small scale. Those are smaller things. Now, in addition to that, I would add in the small scale, little small enamel pieces like this, like these stars, this little heart, maybe these little asterisks. And the same over here with the fall leaves. Look at those little enamel dots. Those are beautiful, fun little tiny embellishments that can add just that little bit of detail to your clusters. Now, on the opposite end of that, of course, you can go larger. Like some of the word art might be larger. Some of these banners are definitely larger to work with. And some of these embellishments like frames and notebook paper, these are just going to be a little larger to work with when you're doing your clusters. So same with these kind of embellishments. So size of your embellishment is just something to keep in mind when you're pulling things to group together. In addition to size, you also want to take a look at shape. Now, sometimes we have a very graphic shape. So we have rectangles, we have squares, we have circles, and we have pointy edges. And then sometimes we have what I like to call very organic shapes. And that would be something like stars or this cluster of balloons or perhaps some of these leaf shapes. These types of embellishments have a lot of different edges and attributes to them that make them very interesting and fun to use to cluster. So again, the type of attribute on this would be a little more organic, whereas you might have a word art cluster that definitely has more of a linear shape or is a rectangle. And kind of the key to keep in mind is that mixing those, bringing those together gives you a really interesting feel to your embellishment clusters. Okay, now in addition to size and scale and shape, another big component of embellishments is, of course, color. And color just kind of makes your whole layout seem much more cohesive. So when I'm looking at a collection, usually you can see that there's a lot of different crossover between the stickers and the embellishments and the paper packs and the matte packs and all the different pieces that you can use to pull together. So when you start breaking these different components into clusters, you're also going to want to pay attention to your color choices. So if I have a cluster here with these different components. And then I want to do another cluster over on this side. Well, yep, I'm going to want to bring some of those same colors across and be able to go, oh, there's yellow here and there's a little touch of yellow here. And just see how different that would look if I take that yellow away. So if I had this on one part of my page and this cluster on another part, just that little touch of yellow adds that component that makes everything kind of come together and look planned. So always keep in mind when you're bringing embellishments together, size, scale, shape, and color. Now, in addition to those three very important attributes of embellishments, I also want to bring in two more attributes, and one is dimension. Dimension, as I mentioned, adding foam squares to the back of a sticker or to the back of an embellishment, or even sometimes our embellishments are already made with dimension, which is just amazing, like these gorgeous Croptoberfest embellishments from Creative Memories. They are so pretty, and the work is already done for us. We've got this beautiful sunflower already layered on some leaves, and this fun heart already popped up off of this banner. So that dimension makes your clusters, makes these groupings of embellishments kind of fun. Now, I have a really simple little tip that I like to use when I am bringing embellishment clusters together, and this is just a tip, and that is every third embellishment I put up on a foam square. So if I have these three and I'm clustering just three together, I'll put one up on a foam square. But let's say I want to add a few more embellishments to this cluster on my page. So instead of having three embellishments, now I have 7 embellishments. And I do like my odd numbers, and I'll go over that also in just a moment. But for adding dimensions, what I would do is then pick a second embellishment to add foam squares to. So then I have 2 out of the 7 that have dimension and give you that kind of visual interest to your cluster. So the last attribute that I'd like you to consider when you are working with your embellishments is theme. And I always kind of feel that when you're selecting the different pieces to work with on a particular page, it's kind of good to figure out which pieces go together or which themes go together. So just as an example, I broke this embellishment pack from It's Fall Y'all into 4 different themes. So the first theme I have are the leaves and all the different shapes and sizes of leaves that come in this pack. The next collection that I grouped together were these icons. These are just graphic icons, but to me, the theme went together. So you could create a knitting theme with a sweater and knitting needles and maybe some socks, or some different kind of cozy theme with a tea and candle and a teapot, or some scarves and mittens. So you can kind of see these groupings really kind of go together, and these groupings go together. In addition, in most of the embellishment packs from Creative Memories, they also give you word art on embellishments. And I like to group all my word art together as well. So if I know I'm looking kind of for a little saying or a little title that I want to add to my grouping, those are all grouped together and organized. So the last set I have for the fall is kind of all the extra bits and pieces, the trees, the pumpkins, the acorns, the apples. And to me, all of these icons kind of went together. They weren't a leaf necessarily. I really kept my leaves together, but they also all had a kind of a very similar theme. So if I wanted to take my pumpkins and do a cluster of my pumpkins, those are all kind of grouped right here. The same if I wanted to do trees, I could do a cluster of trees or acorns or so on. So kind of taking a look, a kind of a broad look at the types of embellishments also gives you a chance to kind of group and organize your embellishments. And why is that important? Because the easier it is to find your embellishments, the easier it is to use them. So I always really enjoy taking just a few extra minutes to get all of my embellishments organized and put away so that they are easy to find and easy to use when I'm ready to create my pages. And again, one of my favorite tips is once I have my embellishments organized in my fill and file sleeves, I just give a quick little tap to the edge, and then I slide that right into my Power Project folder that houses the rest of the collection. And you can see I also include in my Power Project folder another fill and file sleeve that holds all of my laser cut borders for that collection. So I have everything together tucked into my Power Project folder and ready for me to complete some pages. Okay, so why is it important then to learn a little bit about the different types of embellishments and the different attributes to embellishments? Well, now we can see how we put that into use. And just for an example, I have laid out just a sample of a 2-page spread. And so this would be a 2-page spread that might have 4 photos on this side and either 3 or 4 photos on this side. And you can see I have different sizes. I have some 6x4, 3x3. I have a journal box, 4x4s. And if you're interested in how I created these different picture templates, I also have a video on how to create these, and I'll leave a link here as well. So as many of you know, I do really encourage the importance of your photos, and I love starting with the photos as the star of my pages. And once I have my photos down, it gives me an idea of where I have on my pages to create embellishment clusters. So in this layout, what I can do then is go, all right, I've got these photos down. I've got a place to do my journaling. So maybe I'll add my journaling box here. And now I've got some other choices. And one of the things I always encourage is that not only do you group your embellishments in clusters, and you've heard me talk a lot about that during this video, is clustering your embellishments. But another tip is to also ground them on your page. And what do I mean by grounding? Well, I hope long gone are kind of the days of sneezing your embellishments kind of all over your pages, kind of like that, where you don't really have a plan and you just kind of place embellishments randomly around your page. So instead of kind of this sneeze approach to your embellishments, what I would also encourage you to do is think in clusters, depending on the type and attribute of embellishments that you have, and also to group them into clusters and to ground them to your page. So how do we ground it to our page? Well, we can do that by using a journal box. So I think this is a perfect example how we can take the stickers, some of these embellishments that we've already been playing with, and just show how we can group that together right kind of in the corner of our journal box. So that would be one place we could ground our embellishment clusters to the page. And once again, I also encourage you to think in groups of odd numbers. So just remember, the odds have it. So in addition to grouping clusters with a journal box, you can also have fun by using a shape on your page that you could use as a home for your embellishments as well. By using a shape as a background, how easy that kind of gives those embellishments a home and a place to be on your scrapbook page. So in addition to using your clusters and grounding them to a journal box or to a shape, you can also use kind of a negative space on your page that you have left over from your photos. And so something like this area might be a great opportunity to add a larger embellishment if we're talking about scale. But you could also still add dimension and color with your different choices of embellishments. So those really are the tips that I have for you for embellishing with purpose. To group your embellishments in clusters around your page, varying the different types and attributes that those embellishments have. Also, to ground them into a meaningful place on your page rather than just sneezing them or sprinkling them all over. That you can use different groupings of odd numbers, that those odd numbers are typically more appealing. That adding that little bit of dimension creates interest to your page. And lastly, I always love to kind of group my embellishments according to the theme, that they would enhance the pictures that were in my layout and support the theme of the page that I was doing. Now, one last tip I have for you, as I mentioned, I also love using pens as kind of a fun little additional detail to my layouts. And I do love the Creative Memories dot tip pens because you can get several different sizes from each pen. And that would just mean if I wanted to come in and add a few extra little bits of color to this cluster, I could by just adding a few little dots with my pen. And depending on how lightly or how hard you press on these pens, you can get different sized dots. So I'm just going to add these same colors that we've been working with in this theme, this Disney theme. And you can see just adding that little touch with the pen kind of gives you yet just that extra little dimension and extra little touch to your embellishment clusters. So there you have it. A few of my favorite tips for using embellishments on your pages, on your scrapbook pages, and kind of getting back to the basics and how we can go about thinking about embellishments and using them in different ways on our pages. So if you've enjoyed this video, the biggest compliment you can give me is to give it a thumbs up and also pop into the comments what your favorite type of embellishment is. I would love to hear. If you haven't already subscribed, I would love for you to become a member of my Craft Some Joy community and make sure you ring the bell to get notified when I create new videos. So until next time, I hope you take time to craft some joy, and we'll see you in the next episode.